What's up, Chumbags? Welcome to Respawn Station University. You are all seated for Game Collecting 101. We are, of course, joined by Professor Nick Sivak, and I'm his TA, Sri Kandula. But of course, this is a lecture class. A lot of people, we're going to give some people time to join the call. So just before we get started, if your schedule does not say Video Game Collecting 101, please leave. Okay, we've had a lot of problems with people ruining the class, and this is all for educational purposes only. But of course, like any good educator, we're going to first tell you that you can read and learn more about video games over on respawnstation.com. That's where everything happens. It's the popping off place, as they say. And you can go there to read all our thoughts on video games that we've been playing, video games that are going to come out that maybe have caught our eye, and interviews. A wink. Am I allowed to do that as a TA? I'm not a teacher, so it's not like I have tenure or anything on the line. And Nick writes all the things that he doesn't want to do himself for me to do. So anything I do that's problematic in this class, in this lesson, will be Nick's writing.
Like the intro. But, the thing I don't want to do,
yes.
TA, you can handle that.
Yeah, essentially. Now, without any further delay, you might be wondering, when are we going to get to class? That's actually later in the class. The class doesn't start yet. This is your weekly video game conversation. And we started every week with the same very important question, and that is, when did Sri get a mustache? Yeah, it's what it is, guys. It's what it is. That's how I've always looked, really. If this is the first time you're watching, I've had a mustache the whole time. Now, Nick, with that said, what have you been playing? Well, I know what you're playing, but tell the class what you've been playing.
Real quick, you got the mustache, I lost the beard hair, so is the conclusion to be drawn that my beard became your mustache?
Yeah, I collected it. You just had to stamp. Yeah. This was, by the way, for a day. So for context, I did this for my Halloween costume. I was a cop, and I was like, you got to have a mustache. And originally I shaved it Thursday night, and it was like handlebars. I mean, it went down to here, and Alexa was like, "I did say mustache, but not that mustache." And so I was like, "Okay." The next day, I don't think I've ever had a mustache like this though. So we'll try it out. This is how I enter No Shave November. We'll see how I exit. But anyway.
Yeah. So my contribution to what I've been playing this week is going to be slightly boring this week because I had unfinished business, Sri, and that was a little platinum trophy for Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4. And I do say it as a threat because it was a threat to my time. It's it's been taking a while, but I kind of, casually over time, I've been taking little bites here and there, taking little breaks from Tony Hawk, kind of doing a little challenge here or there. And the other night, I think it was literally after we recorded the last episode, I was like, I don't want to get into anything like super crazy right now. Maybe I'll just look at doing some gaps in Tony Hawk, which gaps are essentially a thing in the environment that I don't know how best to describe it. It's like you can go from like one ramp to another ramp, and this special location in the level will give you a gap, and it'll give you like bonus points, and like sometimes they have like little Easter egg names and stuff like that. Levels are full of them. It's like 50, 60. One of the levels, Tokyo, has like over 100 gaps. So they're a thing in all of the Tony Hawk games. And there's a lot of challenges in Tony Hawk 3 and 4 that are, do every gap in a level and, do this trick off of this gap or land a 1 million point combo incorporating this gap. So I just started chipping away at the gaps using like a YouTube video to kind of go down my list and be like, okay, where is this? Because it's not really clear. They just give you a name. And it's like, okay, this could literally be anywhere in this level. So I started chipping away at those, ended up doing every single gap, which was a big, relief out of just like sitting there focusing and just doing a very menial task over and over and over again. And then once I finished the gaps, it was pretty much all downhill from there. It was, well, let's see what other challenges there are. And it's like, okay, score 2 million points while incorporating 2 skitchings. And it's like, okay, that seems kind of hard, but I'll give it a try. It was kind of annoying, but I eventually did it. And then I was just going through and I was like, okay, next, do a 1.8 million combo with this gap on this level. Started going through all those. Finished all of them. And basically what that means is that I've completed every challenge in Tony Hawk 3 and 4 now. And this leads up to one last trophy remaining, which is just to beat the game with all the skaters, which is what I've been working on the last couple days.
Damn. How many skaters for a record?
35, I believe.
Jeez.
So it is the definition, pun intended fully, of a grind. It's just going through doing, and at this point I have 86 hours in the game, PlayStation says. So it's like I pretty much know where every objective is. I know how to do everything. I ran out of like new content so long ago that it's just like, it's just memory at this point and seeing how fast you can get through it, essentially.
Right.
I am down to 8 skaters left, I believe. So probably by the next podcast, I will have gotten my very illustrious platinum trophy for this game.
Oh yeah. And you're in rarefied company there.
Yeah. Overall, I've talked about it before on the podcast. I really do like these Tony Hawk games. I do think both Tony Hawk 1+2 and 3+4, the Platinum Trophy grind has been crazy. It's like both games are like 80 plus hours if you want to do that. And it's just like,
yeah.
I like these games a lot, and I show, my dedication through getting, this platinum trophy. At the end, once I get it, am I going to be really excited? Probably not. I'm going to be like, oh my God, it's finally over, and I cannot install this game. Which I think is it's a funny phenomenon that happened. Well, because there's other people that feel this way too that I've seen, where it's like, you want to show like a game you really like, that you appreciate it, and it's like, I want to do everything, but then in the course of doing everything, it's like, wow, there's some really tedious, boring ass shit that you have to do in this game, and it's just like, it's also a little.
Yes. So I don't know, have we done a topic about just video game, or I guess trophies, PlayStation trophies or achievements?
It's come up a couple times, but I don't know if we've like official like lesson 102 delved into it. So here's the thing,
the thesis, right, for my kind of thought on video game trophies or achievements is that it's sort of a double-edged sword, because on one hand you're getting you're what you're saying about showing love to the game that you're playing, and also saying like, yeah, I mastered this shit, right? But on the other hand, you're also, increasing the amount of time you're playing it, which inevitably means that you will see more of the rough edges, like the more time you spend looking at something, you're like, oh, I can kind of start picking that apart, and like, what's that going on over there? And the illusion crumbles a little bit. But also, usually when you're, collecting trophies or achievements, there's always the point where you're like right before the end, you're just like, even if it's one of your favorite games of all time, it'll be like, oh my God, I can't wait to uninstall this game right now. And in the case of something like, you look at Titanfall, I love Titanfall 2. It's a fantastic game. But man, going for that fucking time trial trophy, it was like 2 days I was like listening to podcasts, just running that shit over and over again, to the point where I'm just like, yeah, I love Titanfall 2, and I'm able to separate myself from it. But like the last 3 days of my experience with it was going fuck over and over again. But anyway, yes, trophy hunting. We'll gotta get to that some point as a topic.
The one thing that I can say that was a bit unique, at least about this experience, is that I did get a PlayStation Portal after talking about it to you and some coworkers. Finally pulled the trigger on it. basically a little bit of
Did you
inside
get
base.
are they only available in black? No, there's white. There's a white one.
Yeah, I have the white
Did you get
one.
a black or a white one? Oh, I got a black one.
Yeah, because I got mine pre-owned and it was quite a bit cheaper. So, but I just had a nice one there, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get it. So,
Hell yeah.
The little bit of inside baseball here. So whenever I edit the podcast, I occasionally a big chunk of my editing time isn't actually editing.
Sorry, whenever you're grading papers. Yeah.
Exactly. It's just me listening to the podcast, right? And like just whenever I'm listening, there's a spot that I can, trim some stuff out or whatever. But like 90% of it is just listening.
The Sri says some bullshit for 5 minutes. Let's cut that out. Let's get that.
No, it's more so whenever I try to do something stupid and then I give up halfway through and I'm just like, okay, let's just cut that. But the last like little bit, I've been bringing my PlayStation out of my game room and setting up a separate TV off to the side so that I can grind Tony Hawk specifically.
I have seen the setup.
It's the quintessential jank console setup, right? And seriously, I was just like, should I just get like a Portal and just stream it so I don't have to move this like every week?
It's crazy because you've walked yourself into a use case for the like this is the reason the PlayStation was like, yeah, the Portal. It doesn't play games natively, but it specifically if you can't access your PlayStation 5 and you're still home with a steady internet connection.
Yeah. So getting into a little bit of thoughts on it, I am surprised by the actual streaming quality, like the visual quality.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought it was going to be like, we've seen so many examples of this before where it's like, it's kind of blurry. It's not like super sharp.
Yep.
It seems pretty solid for the most part. I've put maybe like 5 or 6 hours of playtime into it. And only twice has like my internet hit like a hitch. And like it kind of like pixelates out for like a second, but then it usually just fixes itself immediately. So that's been really nice. The one thing I will say, Tony Hawk, probably not a great game to be playing on it. It's a very fast game and very input intensive. And I immediately noticed the input delay and I was like, yeah, this is like exactly what I was expecting. It's enough to completely
I'd be curious.
mess up the flow.
Maybe something like, I don't know if you've tried Fallout, but maybe something like that, like 76 or something.
Yeah,
where it's not as immediate. Like the controls will have time to go through.
For sure, I've not tried anything other than Tony Hawk yet, but like pretty much the way I described it to my one friend who was asking, I was like, yeah, if it was a game where I wasn't hitting like literally 1,000 buttons every 10 minutes, then I'm sure it would handle it a lot better. There's another game. I don't know if I'm going to start it yet or not because I have a couple things that I'm about to start playing soon here. But I installed Evil West on my PlayStation.
Oh,
and I was
nice.
like, maybe that might be a decent game to try on it too. I don't know how like in depth, like mechanically or like tactily that game is, whatever the word is I'm looking for, but remember that. But yeah, so far it's been pretty fine. It's already felt worth it for my use case that I'm using, and I already know in the future there's going to be some other use cases for it, so I think it was a worthwhile purchase.
Hell yeah. Well, I mean, as of today, there was actually just an update for the PlayStation Portal, which essentially updates some of the user interface and just general UI stuff for it, and adds kind of like cloud streaming more definitively. I think it's currently in beta or something like that, but now you can cloud stream if you have PS Plus Premium.
Yeah, which I don't have,
and
so I won't be able to use that.
Yeah, but... I mean, but hey, you could try it out. I'm sure you'll get to get into what I've been playing. That's exactly what I've been doing. I have PlayStation Premium, and I've been streaming Back 4 Blood. I actually haven't really tested streaming from my PS4 to my Portal.
Can you do that?
What?
Can you do it from PS4, or is it only on PS5?
Oh, sorry. Did I say PS4? I meant PS5. I meant PS5.
Okay.
My PS5, my PlayStation 5 to the Portal. I know you can stream from the PS4 or sorry, from the PS5 to the PS4 too. I think is
I
also
think you
possible.
can, yeah.
Anyway, the PS5 to the Portal is not something I've done too much. I think maybe I've tested it once just to be like, oh, I could do this. So it's interesting that you've only had like two dropouts. I've only been streaming it, and mainly last week I talked about having playing Back for Blood. Um, I've played more of it, and I have kind of two major things to add from what I said last time. Last time, I have to correct myself. I said that, oh, I was almost done the story after like 2 hours or whatever. It turns out that was Act One of the story. There's like 5 or 6 acts
Oh, gotcha,
total.
gotcha.
So like once you finish the Act One, there's like an Act Two that comes up or whatever. And so there is definitely, to the game's credit, there is a lot of playability and replayability. I'm sure if you have friends that you want to go keep going back with. But that being said, it's still not fun. Like it is like maybe I'm removed from Left 4 Dead too much to like really kind of compare it actively,
Hmm.
but it's just the minute to minute gameplay is just boring, and uh, they try to spice things up with these card system where you can make a deck to like add different spins so like each run can be different, but like I have no motivation to go for those, like go and customize those decks and or create new decks and playing around with the cards. Like I deal with the cards that I was dealt.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's just overwhelmingly like okay, sure. Like it's fine. It shoots. It works. Because I'm streaming it, I experience like a few more. Like every play session that I go in, I get like two little hiccups or whatever. But yeah, it's just I don't know if I'm gonna go back. It's just like I have the option if I want to, and we'll see how it works. Um, if I get around to just chill and my PS Portal is next to me.
Hmm.
So that's my Back for Blood update. Again, we don't know if we'll get to more on that later. Now, Nick, uh, I've been riding very high off of my recent picks, right? Wolfenstein, The New Order, Tomb Raider, even Alone in the Dark to a certain extent, and definitely for with Days Gone, I've been going through my backlog and just enjoying the crap out of the games I've been playing. You can read my review for all of those games over on respawnstation.com. But I'm like Icarus. Handsome, bald. I don't know the story, but I've gotten so close to the sun that now my wings are burning up and I'm plummeting.
Uh-oh.
My next game on my backlog that I've committed to, I don't know if you saw this, might be a surprise, is Crisis Remastered. I've been waiting to get into the Crisis series for a very long time, and I have Crisis 2, and I literally got Crisis 2 because of that Hans Zimmer theme song, dude. It fucking rips. And if you haven't seen that Crisis 2 opening cinematic, it is just awesome. Fantastic. But and I also don't know how they got Hans Zimmer to do two tracks for this game, by the way, Crisis 2. Anyway, so I have Crisis 2 for a long time, but I was like, I'll play them in chronological order, and they're not too long of games. So I committed to Crisis Remastered, and what I'm finding is that I'm going to say some controversial ass shit here. First of all, the game does not age well. Like when you look at it as a product of its time, it's very impressive. You have this open world that you can explore. The game looks great. There's some weird ass mechanics they just threw in there that are like weird but like cool. Like you can just go up to animals or people, and if you follow them for long enough, the prompt will come up to pick them up, and you can just hold it. You can just pick them up. So like you can pick up a chicken and walk around with a chicken. You can grab a dude by his throat with one hand, your gun in the other, and then walk around. It's and there's also crazy destructibility. It's like freaking Battlefield. You can just go up to a house and you can destroy it with a vehicle you're driving, just or explosions, or even your bare fists if you have enough time. You just start punching the walls and it starts crumbling because you're a fucking Silver Soldier. But it doesn't really make you feel like a super soldier. You are a bitch, a baby-backed nanosuit-wearing bitch in this game. And what's so incredible is that the human enemies that should be cowering in fear are like tanks, dude. These people are like, God, nah, that there was nothing, like you shoot him in the head, and you're like, oh, that's got to be a headshot, dude's. His baseball caps must be fucking diamond plated. I mean, I don't understand how he's not going down, and to the point where I turned down the difficulty. I'm playing on the lowest difficulty of the game, and there's still bullet sponges. And what's even crazier is there's a threat that they've teased from the moment you're dropping into the game. So it's not a spoiler. There's aliens also, I think, on in this island, and the aliens haven't been introduced as an enemy yet. Nick, I'm fucked. What the fuck are the aliens gonna do that these humans like? It can only get harder.
You
I
don't
imagine.
know. Maybe they're glass cannons. maybe you shoot them and they break. But yeah, Crisis I've never really played. I've been curious to give them a try for a long time, but yeah, I only really know them for their like tech, right? Like I don't really know much about like the game.
Can it run Crisis? I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm. How's the remaster though? I mean, you say it aged, but like, does it look at least semi-modern or no?
It looks fine. You're not going to look at it and be like, yeah, this is a 2022 game or 2021 game.
Sure.
It looks fine. There's certain elements of it that are cool. Yeah, no, it's literally one of my notes is game looks fine. So I mean, it's okay. But here's the thing: great soundtrack. To throw out some points that whatever. But I'm just gonna keep going off my notes. Stealth is broken. That shit does like either works or doesn't. Most of the time, it doesn't work. Because again, I want to know where these fucking Koreans in this game are getting trained. They have the eyes. I mean, they must be drinking carrot juice all day long, baby. Because you are in a nanosuit, fucking through a forest, and they're like, "There he is! Fucking get him!" Like, what? Why, dude? There's no fantasy. There's the power fantasy that they're trying to drive is just completely fucked. And it kind of like, I described the game in the early parts of like, oh, it's kind of like Predator, where you're going in and you're like, oh, I feel like a threat, and then you realize that there's a bigger threat that like is hunting you,
Mm-hmm.
Because you thought you were the predator, but then you're the prey. Ooh. No, but like I feel like the prey the whole time. I'm very vulnerable in this forest. This nanosuit is not helping. But and then also, again, just adding to the like weird frustrations. There's between every significant area, like because it's an open world map, sure, but like you're kind of going through it in a pretty relatively linear path. You can go off the path and find your own stuff and do stuff. There's secondary objectives. But each like area as you're going into has a large fucking lag spike. It's like pause, and then let's keep going. But all's that to say, my most controversial take is that I didn't know this. Again, it's my first time playing the game. I think Crysis, the formula that it sets up, was perfected by Far Cry. I didn't know that was such a hot take. My monitor shut down. The open world is very similar to Far Cry 3, like in that kind of space.
Mm-hmm.
But just Far Cry is just more satisfying. Like the checklist is there. It even has a bigger power, like, I keep saying power fantasy, but like, you know what I mean? Like it makes you feel cooler. It's more satisfying to play. That's not to say that Crysis 2 or 3 can't have lived up to it later. I haven't gotten to those. So for now, I think if you want to play Crysis for anything other than, oh, this is like a cool benchmark title for when it came out, just play Far Cry 3 or Far Cry 4 or Far Cry 5 or Far Cry, any Far Cry. They're all the same. So just play one of those and you'll get the gist of it. So there's my hot take. Okay. Now, next up, we have something that both Nick and I can talk about together, which is Battlefield Redacted Sector, or called RedSec, if you know the game mode pretty well, Nick, what's your take on RedSec? You've spent a little bit more time. I know you talked about it last week, But for those of you for the fucking lazy people who didn't show up to last class, all right, I have your name down here. All right, this is going on your report card. But anyway, what'd you think? What'd you think about RedSec? A little recap.
Yeah, I thought it was very reminiscent or familiar feeling to Warzone for me. Being a couple years removed from it, it has a lot of the battle royale kind of staples, the loot chests, the kill streaks, the little missions, go do this, and you'll get like a little supply drop, that sort of thing. Obviously has the firewall ring of death that closes in, kind of funnels everybody together. The one thing that I thought was a nice inclusion was having that battlefield destruction and destructibility to the environments and some of the buildings. It didn't seem like it was everything from what I played, but plenty that have noticeable destructible environments. But yeah, overall, it just kind of felt like, oh, this feels very similar to Warzone to me.
So here's the thing. I agree with you to a certain degree. I did not come off of RedSec pretty hot. I played about 3 hours on stream. God fucking damn it, monitor! I know you. This thing loves Crisis and Battlefield is what I'm discovering. I've played about 3 hours of RedSec on stream, which was like an hour of actual RedSec, the battle royale, and then like 2 hours of Gauntlet. And then on stream is just not like, sometimes you just want to cut back. So then I played it a few more rounds of just battle royale. And so these thoughts are probably first 5 hours, let's say, first impressions of Battlefield RedSec. The big thing is that the game looks great. The map is a large map with like a very vibrant, and it's a different vibe. It has a different vibe from Warzone. I feel like it's smaller than Warzone, but it definitely feels like its own thing, which I appreciate. And I also think the Firestorm is a nice touch because it's this ominous kind of threat. Also, kind of weird that like the game, like the RedSec is like based, like the map in RedSec is California, a state known for burning down,
Right.
and they're like, yeah, let's make this shit a biography. I mean, what the hell?
Pretty
But
much.
either way, the fire ring is not like Fortnite or Warzone, in that you really can't go inside. You touch that shit, and you're fucking, you're Anakin on Mustafar. So it's on one hand, you definitely lose out on some of the kind of the strategies. I mean, like one of my, I play a lot of Warzone on stream or with friends, and what ends up happening is like, oh shit, the last buy station to revive your teammates is about to go out of zone, but I have a gas mask. It could survive. Like, so like, you make that play, and it's like that risk reward that you kind of, that you lose out on because you don't have any kind of leeway to go into that storm and play any risks off of it. There's been Warzone matches I've won where like I flanked out of the gas to go, kind of go in from another angle where they're not expecting me, and stuff like that you just inherently you don't get. But still, like it's a more intimidating threat. I find like the way that it comes in and the it slowly starts consuming the map, and I thought that was a nice touch. That being said, let's see. So first of all, hit registration of this fucking thing, ridiculous. I know I'm not great at Battlefield, but man, what the fuck am I? What's going on here? I feel like I'm just constantly getting like turned on, and no, not in a good way. All right, you sit down over there. Anyway, and it's also like this. Yeah, like, look, I'm not going to harp too much on the hit registration. I know Warzone also had trouble with that when it came out. Usually a lot of battle royales do. And I'm not going to, some of that might be because I'm bad at the game too. But that being said, continuing on, mission, I'm just going through my list here. Mission, there's objectives and counter objectives. I think that stuff isn't really like in Warzone. You don't, like, in Warzone, you have missions that you can pick up, and they'll be like, "Oh, go cap this point, go get these 3 chests, and you get special stuff." In Battlefield, it feels a lot more intentional, which I appreciate because you can you see more of the map. There's certain it drives people towards something like especially the counter objective part. Excuse me, where one person will be doing a task and then the game will be like, hey, you have a counter objective, go stop them from doing their task and you can steal their shit faster without having to do it. Stuff like that's cool. There's also like armored vehicle like containers where you have to find the key by doing an objective and then you get you can get like a tank into the game, which again, a tank in a battle royale, kind of crazy to kind of throw that into the mix, even though they are pretty like easy to sabotage. The class based, you're talking about the loot boxes and stuff too. So yeah, there's loot chests everywhere, but like there's also class based loot because there's these orange chests, and the what's in the chests will change based on what what class opens it. So if you're a recon and you open the chest, it'll be like a sniper rifle or something like that. Whereas if it's a medic, it might be like an SMG or something. So like it'll kind of change based on that. The other chests are just kind of like randomized crap. Again, there's cool ideas in it. The way you upgrade weapons, it's not just finding new weapons. You find like a weapon upgrade packs that then you can use to kind of select what upgrades you have. Those are small stuff that I think are significant in the way that they feel like they're Battlefield, which I respect a lot. Destruction, we were talking about that. I feel like destruction is cool, but I've played a few matches and no one's using it. Like I think I purposely just destroyed a building just to be like, oh, I can do that though. But other than that, I feel like it hasn't really. And I've gone to I think as high as like 15th place. So maybe in the last 10 positions are like destroying, like leveling the map. But so far I haven't experienced much of that. What's else? And then the Gauntlet. I'll say I've played a bit of that as well.
Yeah, I didn't play any of that. So I'm curious to hear what it's something to do with like squads, right?
So it still has a little bit of the battle royale essence, but essentially you go in and so you go out as how do I say this? So you go in and let's say there's 6 squads that go in, and there's like 4 rounds. And so in the first round, they'll give you, each round is a different objective. So every time you play the Gauntlet, one could be extraction, one could be like I forget the names, but like one could be like capture the point. You have to go and capture certain points, and that's the only and the person with the highest points, like the team with the highest points, is first, second, third, fourth, and then the ones that are bottom 2 get eliminated that round. Okay. There's also like just straight up kills. So like then you could again, the team with the most kills gets 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 3, 4 get eliminated. Whatever, and then the last squad standing wins that way. So that's the Gauntlet. It's fun. It's fun initially, but it gets old fast because it's like 5 modes and like I hate 3 of them. So like 2 of them are like, oh, that's kind of fun. But it's like a cool like little twist on the free to play thing, and like Warzone has its like Resurgence Island or something like that. It's like a smaller offering in the free to play game mode. So I'm guessing it's a counterbalance for that. But and the last thing I'll say, there's the artillery fire in the map, like when you're dropping in or anything like that. It really adds a lot of like cinematic flair to it, and part of that, it actually makes the game, dare I say, feel like a war zone, because there's so much like you're looking up and the fucking jets are going over occasionally. There's mortar fire or whatever, tracer fucking bullets are going around. So it's a cool, interesting kind of feel for the game that just inherently feels a little bit more cinematic. But I just don't find it that fun to play. So it's it is a very Battlefield mode, but the thing is, I don't know if Battlefield players are wanting a battle royale. And that's why they paid $70 or $60, $70 on launch to play the base multiplayer, which I'm I've heard is much more solid, even from you. You know.
Yeah, I've played a bit more of the multiplayer. I haven't played much more RedSec, but yeah, the thing that you mentioned about like hit detection, it's funny because like I've definitely gotten that a little bit in the multiplayer also, but there is a noticeable shift in this game specifically to them like incentivizing burst fire. It's like I've noticed much more that if I'm just like holding a weapon fully automatic, like I'm landing like the first couple shots and then missing everything else. So it's like you really have to like pay attention and be like but to try to get like the most accuracy out of your weapons possible, which I feel is like it's nice in multiplayer and everything, but for something like a battle royale, I feel like it's very counterintuitive when people have like armor and all this other stuff where it's like, okay, I just need to get led down range as much as possible, and it's like, okay, well now I need to sit here and focus and be like, okay, now my cone of aim is too wide, I gotta stop and do all this other stuff. It seems like it might get a little bit hairy in those higher what would you call it? The longer into the match that you are, the lower
Sure.
ranks. Whatever I'm trying to say.
Yeah. When it gets closer to the last few teams,
Yeah.
and you gotta make those showdowns. In the end, look, I don't think I'll still play more of it just to get a sense of it. I don't want to review or like say something definitively about a game if I haven't put enough time into it. But I just don't think if I wasn't doing that, and if I wasn't trying to do the quote unquote due diligence as one might, if it's worth the situation that we're of playing video games and talking about them on the internet, I don't know if I would come back to this game. I don't think that there's enough here that would make me drive me away from other games. And I'm curious to get back, like, to get you into Warzone so that you can feel the difference, because it is inherently a little bit different than it is, like, Call of Duty's obviously more arcadey in its kind of nature as opposed to this. And I think that the serious nature of Battlefield means that it amplifies this thing of what I always felt in Battlefield because of some of the larger maps where you run around, you die, and then you're like, oh, well, all right, got to respawn so I can run back in. Battlefield 2042, 2042, right? 2047?
2042.
Whatever. It was rampant with this fucking with that feeling in the first few months at least. But Warzone has a different, like, I don't feel that with Warzone. And so, it'll be interesting to see if you can keep up with the Call of Duty kids. The COD kids as they call them.
Yeah,
but
it's funny in the general multiplayer, there's a lot of just like what I love about Battlefield's multiplayer. This is such a small thing, but a lot of them have text chat, and I love hopping in the text chat and typing stuff out. Like I don't usually do voice chat in online games anymore, but text chat I get some great laughs out of, and there's been a lot of people like specifically calling out like COD kids and stuff in chat, which I think is pretty funny. There was whenever the RedSec came out, there was a new map that they added to multiplayer also called like Blackwell Fields. It's like an oil field map.
Oil field? Yeah, I've heard it's terrible, but
it's not my favorite. But yeah, I was just like in a mood and kind of wanted to send some trolly texts in the text chat. So I said, I hopped into the map and I said in to everybody, because you can do like team, squad, or like global the entire or team server.
Yeah.
And I said, which map is better, this one or Nuketown? And like two people, like nobody really responded, but two people were like this, and like we're just saying stuff like that. And then the other night I was playing with a couple friends of mine. Oh, okay, I have two stories about this actually. So
sure.
The one, I was again just kind of like wanting to mess with people. I said, guys, DICE is gonna cancel Battlefield Hardline 2 if we lose this game. And then somebody on the other team replied, good, which I thought that was funny.
That's rough.
Separate story, I was playing with a buddy of mine, and he wrote in the text chat, and obviously because it's a modern game, words get censored in text chat, right? And my buddy sent a message that said guy in, and then it was star 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 for censoring is like a loser or something is what he said. And I was like, what did you write? Like, because I couldn't even really understand what it meant. And he's like, what does it say? And I said exactly that. I was like, it says guy in blank or whatever. And he said, oh, I said guy in bush. And I was like, oh, great. What a censored word. That's
nice.
Hilarious. I was dying laughing when I heard that. Because,
it's like in Call of Duty, I think Arc Raiders was censored.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You get these like funny edge case scenarios where it's like certain things they put in. It's like, yeah, somebody had to put bush in for a censored word.
And then, but you know what? Text chat, so one of my favorite things now as I play Warzone, is I'll just talk to the people in my party. Like I'll go with randoms, and I'll just have like random. I'll just have conversations. I'll be like, so like, what's your favorite Call of Duty? Like, or like, I think one time I was like, what's your favorite color? And we just start having a conversation. It turns into an interview, which is very entertaining. But then we hopped into game chat just like this last weekend because we were playing. And some dude accidentally, instead of typing to his team, said, "Hey, where are you guys? I'm at Lumber." And so we're like, "Oh, me too, dude. I'm at Lumber." And then like other people dropped in and it was like, "Yeah, like we're in Lumber." And it's like, "No, you're not." And it's like, "Oh, sorry, I'm at your mom's house." It's classic. It was a great time. It was a great time. The text chat, is keeping the vibes of what just regular chat used to be like back in the day. But anyway, that's our that's our what we've been playing. Now it's time to talk about the news. There's not been a lot to go through. We obviously already touched on the PlayStation Portal news. By the way, I tried to look for this update right before the podcast. It did not come through. So maybe it's on the horizon. I don't know, but Nick, what else do we got on the docket?
Well, speaking of updates, Animal Crossing New Horizons, Nintendo announced that there's going to be a Switch 2 version alongside a new free content update, which I know a lot of people have been like wanting out of Animal Crossing. It's like they kind of added that last big DLC, and then the game just kind of went radio silent, essentially. And
it's up to date, my ass. Anyway, sorry.
And so basically the Switch 2 version, as you would expect, is getting like mouse controls. There's a resolution bump, more players for multiplayer, I believe. I think it was 8 originally, and now it's up to 12-player multiplayer. So some cool stuff there. But the free update that's going to Switch 1 and Switch 2.
And that's $5, right? The Switch 2 upgrade is $5, I think.
I don't see a price in this IGN article, but I will trust you and say that because that seems.
Because I think normally they've been going for $10, but like for like other upgrades. But I think this one's an exception that they've made.
Gotcha. So, yeah, update 3.0. This is gonna add. This is coming from IGN, by the way. They just have like a little list here that I'm reading off of. They're adding a resort hotel, upgraded item storage, Rossetti's reset service. It's a lot of R's and S's in there. Dream World and Slumber Islands, whatever those are. There's Nintendo consoles, retro toys, and playable NES and Game Boy games. I think you do need to be a Switch Online member, maybe, to access those. I kind of saw something about that online. Lego items, Zelda amiibo functions, and Splatoon items and Splatoon amiibo functions are also being added. So a nice little update to Animal Crossing for those people that have been waiting very patiently for something new to do in that game. I've even heard people out in the wild recently just being like, yeah, Animal Crossing, like that was really fun, but then they just didn't do anything with it. And it seemed like such an easy kind of layup for them to just keep updating it. But that's also not really like Nintendo's MO, I guess.
How dare you say that? Yeah, no, it is. They also recently just released the app for like I think on your phone you can get the Nintendo eShop app.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that?
I saw bits and pieces of that. Yeah.
And so one of the cool things is that you can actually it tracks your time across. I mean, Nintendo's been tracking your time across most devices. Well, you
Mm-hmm.
can go see how much time you have on your 3DS and stuff too. Apparently, with the eShop app, which is pretty cool. Always interested in seeing how much time I'm wasting away. But yeah, there you go. There's your Animal Crossers. I don't know, they have a name. Doom Slayers. Your Doom Slayers got a
I think
free
Animal
update. Or
Crossers was pretty good. I think you nailed it on the head there. Hey, Crossers.
um, yeah, that's my new. I'm gonna create a niche. I'm gonna say niche, but like it sold like 50 million copies on the Switch. So like I don't know how niche that is, but
Right.
yeah.
I
Welcome, hi Crossers. Welcome to the podcast.
I would have given them actual props if they put like Doom stuff in for no reason. They're just like, hey, you can get a Doom Slayer statue.
Pre-order now and get the Doom Slayer skateboard from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Uh,
Go ahead. Where are we going next?
I was gonna say we might as well tackle this. You may or may not be able to speak more to it than me, but Simpsons cross Fortnite. That was something that happened this week. I included this. I normally wouldn't include something like this in the news rundown, but A, it was kind of a slower news week, but B, I did see that like they pretty much replaced like the entire map with like the Simpsons map and everything. So I thought that was kind of cool. It seemed like it was a pretty big overhaul to the game and all that sort of stuff. And it even saw like a bit of a player bump because of it. So
Yeah, no, the player bump, by the way, it was 2.6 million concurrent players. So
Jeez.
fucking wild. Yeah. And I haven't actually played this. My game did update while I was playing Crisis. And for a second, I was like, is it worth it?
Because like I've seen
I kept playing Crisis.
with
but
Fortnite specifically, like over time, like other battle royales, they will change like parts of the map. But like, how often do they just like new map that game?
I mean, it's every chapter, I believe. So like, Fortnite has chapters and seasons. So seasons are like a regular battle pass. It's like every few, like 2-3 months or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then like, to Fortnite's credit, because there's like a story that a story that they're kind of pushing through that leads from one season to another. It goes from like something happens and then all of a sudden Superman's like, he's here to save the world. And then that's the Superman season or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But every chapter they try to like change up the map in a kind of a drastic way. And usually the lead up to that or the lead up before that or whatever is like really cool. Like it is like you should be there for that one day if you can type of event, which I think Fortnite kind of uniquely does. But I've updated the game, but I've not gotten into it. Though I did see that what's his face, Bart, is like in like a robot suit or whatever, so that he matches the height of all the other players. I'm like, God damn it! That's what fucking Call of Duty did with Roger from American Dad. It's so stupid, so stupid.
I will say I do need to call them out. I saw a little bit of a trailer, and at the end, Bart puts an A over the O in Fortnite to make it Fartnite. And
Fortnite.
I have had that pinned tweet more like Fartnite on my account for probably close to half a decade at this point. So, not saying I came up with the joke or anything, but
I'm curious because we talked about Battlefield RedSec earlier, and there's already been some controversy around like certainly some vibrant colored skins, and I briefly looked at the Battle Pass for this current season 1 of Battlefield, and I'm like, okay, it's pretty boring. Like none of them I'm like, oh, I gotta grind for that, but there's got to be a point. I mean, like I know they dunked on like we're not gonna have Nicki Minaj in Battlefield, but like there's got to be a point that at some point they're like, hey, no one's buying our Battle Pass because it's all the same soldier shit. Like
Sure.
I don't know. I'm curious what when the players' wallets will stop fucking opening because they're like, oh, I have a cool enough soldier already, and they're all just generic soldiers with kind of changes here and there or whatever.
Hmm.
So, at what point are they satisfied and not going to commit to buying another thing? Whereas,
It's kind of funny because both my two friends that I was playing Battlefield with, they both talked to me and were like, yeah, I took a look at the battle pass, looked at the stuff. It looks kind of like they're doing a Modern Warfare thing. And I was like, you know what? I've made an active attempt. I am not even opening that menu. Like, I don't buy these usually, but like, for whatever reason with Battlefield specifically, it's like, I know I'm not going to engage with this system at all. I've like barely customized my weapons. So it's like, I get the little tokens and every time I'm playing them, it's just like, that's pretty much like white noise. It's like, I'm not even going to look at the battle pass screen and figure out what the frick battle tokens are or how I spend them, all this other crap. Like, I just can't be bothered.
yeah. I mean, look, that's even in Warzone. I have the character that I play with, and occasionally you get a free one if you're on PlayStation Plus, or if it's like Halloween, they had a free one, of like a Halloween head or whatever. But like, I don't commit to any of those battle passes. I think I bought the Call of Duty battle pass for Warzone like twice, and that's mainly because I'm like, all right, I've put 50 hours in, I can give him $10, and then I put another 50 hours in. It's like I can give another $10,
right?
But it's only if I'm feeling, I've put enough time to pay for it. If it's a free to play game, if I'm paying $70 for Battlefield or even Black Ops 7 or whatever, I don't care about the fucking battle pass. So, yeah. Anyway,
let's talk about Soldier Boy. So I threw this one in here because, as an offhanded joke, at the end of last episode, we mentioned Soldier Boy coming back to replace Xbox as they exit unceremoniously from the big three status here. Little did we know that Soldier Boy was actually going to pop up into the news for something gaming related this week. And he announced a new game console, the Soldier Game Flip, and apparently images from the official website seem to be identical to the already existing Retroid Pocket Flip 2. So, honestly, not all that surprising based on the history of the Soldier game console lineage here, but there have been official comments from Retroid, and they say, this is from an article on GameSpot, quote, "This is not any kind of official licensing deal. He does not have permission to rebrand our products and sell them as his own. The Retroid Pocket Flip 2 is patented in the US by ourselves," end quote. So,
it's such a unique grift that it makes one wonder at what, like, is he even thinking about this? Like, at this point, like, he's been discovered so many times that it's not a secret. It's public knowledge that, oh yeah, he's taking this shit that exists, he's drop shipping with his name on it. So that's the first thing. Like, who's the dumb one in this situation here? But number two, if there was a handheld gaming device that Soldier Boy would steal from, and steal and then replicate under his own name, why would it not be the Playdate? I mean, you got to crank that to play the game. I mean, it's right there, dude. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, Soldier Boy, hit me up, and I can tell you how fucking stupid you are. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, honestly, like, possibly legal action, I guess, is going to be taken. Nothing confirmed as of now, but I saw that pop up and I was like, there's no way. That the coincidence is too strong.
Downright prophetic. Yeah.
I want to save the good one for last, because I think we can both talk about that. But I just saw this.
The good one.
I saw this briefly before we started recording, and there's apparently an Overcooked reality competition series in the works at Netflix from A24, that's a lot of buzzwords being thrown out there, but a reality competition cooking show based on the video game Overcooked. Sure, Why not? I think it's if they capture the essence of the game, which is a bunch of people having to, I guess, split a kitchen. Maybe it's like only certain things are on one half, certain things are on the other half, and people got to work together and move around and stuff. I'm sure that could be pretty entertaining. And cooking competition shows are a dime a dozen; they're everywhere. So makes sense that Netflix would want to beef up both that video game IP kind of adaptation thing, but also giving it like a different bit of a flavor, which I think is kind of cool. Is this something that I would watch? Probably not. I've not even played the games, so it's like it probably wouldn't speak much to me specifically. But I don't know. I just thought it was kind of interesting, kind of funny, a different type of adaptation than what we've been getting a lot recently.
With A24 picking up Overcooked, I was like, oh, we're gonna get The Bear, but it's a movie where it's just a fucking depressed chef being like, fuck, the pasta's overcooked. But like, no, it's interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting spin. I'll be curious to see.
A24 has been interesting in all of this too, because they are also picking up a lot of video game stuff. Because like they're behind Elden Ring, right?
Yep.
So yeah, they're going to be doing Elden Ring. They have something Death Stranding working on with Kojima. They have Overcooked now, and I think there's one other thing I remember seeing too. But like, they're definitely picking up a lot of these video game projects, which I think is also kind of interesting. You wouldn't think that, I think, looking at A24 from the outside, but maybe I just have the wrong read on them.
I don't know. I feel like there have always been nerds, and I think they're, now they're nerds with a little bit more money because of all that fucking press. All right, the last one. The news that Nick said was the best that we got to save for last. Arok Digital has announced Warhammer Survivors. That was a genuine mistake, by the way. I wasn't trying to set it up as a Vampire Survivor clone, but that's what it is. So here it is. Arok Digital has announced Warhammer Survivors, a fast-paced roguelike survivors game launching in 2026. Developed and published by Arok Digital, who, we talked about them before. They've made Warhammer 40K Bolt Gun in partnership with Punkel, who created Vampire Survivors. And Warhammer Survivors takes a relentless and charming pixel vomit gameplay and fuses it with the globally renowned grimdark of the Warhammer universes.
Pixel vomit is the greatest way to describe a Survivors game like that.
Yeah, I agree. What's weird about this one, so I'll go through the quick kind of bullet points they give out. So it's fast and frenetic Survivor gameplay, a roster of iconic characters from 40K and Age of Sigmar universes featuring Warhammer Bolt Gun's very own Malum Cato. Multiple modes and stages from across the grimdark 41st millennium and the mortal realms. An arsenal of familiar weapons such as the Bolt Gun, Astrades chainsword, whirlwind axes, and glorious Easter eggs such as the humble pot of Citadel Nuln oil paint. If you know what that means, please see me after class so I can give you an F. Now, a mighty cache of passives and power-ups. That's all good and well. I've looked at this game a little bit, and the Steam page is up too. You can go, if this is up your alley, you can go publish it now, wishlist it now. But what I don't know. What I'm struggling with is I don't think the game looks very good. It's obviously like, a Survivor like, and they're working with Vampire Survivor developers on it as well. But I was hoping for like some sort of a visual flair to make it feel a little bit more premium or I don't know, something. It just feels like it's simple. It's too simple. I was hoping for a little bit more out of it, but at the I don't know, something more. It doesn't. Other than the fact that it's a freaking giant space marine, it doesn't feel very Warhammer-y.
Sure.
So far,
I also think I think it looks fine. Did you play Vampire Survivors when it was like
Yep.
new? Okay.
That's the only Survivor like I played.
Same. So like I understand why it has to be simple when you get to that pixel vomit stage where it's like there's literally thousands of enemies on screen and visual effects everywhere. essentially like a slot machine just going off and in attacking all of your sensory, faculties. But I could understand that criticism. To me, it does just look like, because I mean, Vampire Survivors had crossovers with like Castlevania and Contra already with like Konami. It does just kind of feel like another expansion to Vampire Survivors,
but independent, not just part of the main package.
Exactly.
This time. Yeah.
Like it's just a separate team and everything. But like, it's like on the one hand, I see that. On the other hand, I think it is cool that they are working with the actual Vampire Survivors devs and using that engine, because I think that game does feel really nice, and that's something that would be kind of like a coin toss if they're making this type of game. It's very influenced by Vampire Survivors, but it would be like different tech under the hood. I could see that being like a bit of a concern. It's like, well, is it going to perform right? At least knowing this, it's like you have a pretty good idea going into it what the game will feel and look like, and it's just going to be Warhammer flavored if that's what you're looking for. So I can respect that as well. And
I will say that it does maybe feel a little bit more faithful than, like, we get hundreds of emails every week.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point there was a time probably when we first started, 2021 or so, where it was like Hades, like, or like whatever, like that was the buzzword. And now I feel like it's like, welcome to the new Survivor, like, like that's the new. Anyway, so I can go into examples of this, but I won't. But I'll just say that there's a lot of Survivor likes out there now, and I'm glad that this one at least feels a little bit more tied in to Vampire Survivors and kind of maybe giving credit where it's due, instead of just being like, yeah, it's a great new concept we've just come up with.
I also think it's kind of funny that like they have 40K and then also Age of Sigmar. Again, I'm not a Warhammer person much. Like, I'm very casually into it, and most of my interest has been from the 40K side of it. So I'm wondering if maybe that's a bit of it too, where it's like you're getting these clashing Warhammer eras or like themes, however you describe it, and it's making it just look like a little bit more blah, I guess. That's at least something that I could see.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, hey, I don't know anything about Age of Sigmar because I'm an alpha, baby. Is that how you do it? I'm going to think about what I just said there. But you can go take a quick water break, a pee break, and we'll see you back here in just a minute, just a few seconds, right after this ad break. Hi, it's me. Welcome to the ad break. Nick thought he could get a drink in, but no. I'm here to tell you all about RespawnStation.com and everything else that we're doing over here on the internet. So first of all, RespawnStation.com, our go-to place for raving about what we've been playing and what we're into in the video game sphere. If you like that kind of stuff, if you want to see exclusive interviews, reviews, worded like nowhere else on the internet, longer than anyone should reasonably write a review, head on over to RespawnStation.com. It's great. You can just bookmark the thing and come back after, every time you go to the bathroom while you're at work, you got a paragraph in. Boom. Your word count just went up for the day. And automatically you're smarter. That's just guaranteed. Just by default. But also, did you know over on this channel right here that you're watching this on, we have weekly uploads, obviously, of the podcast. But even when the podcast is not airing, which we're gonna get there in a few weeks, where the podcast will be off for another season break, let's say, and in between then, we'll have some great shows coming out, stuff that you've maybe already seen on other places, stuff you've never seen anywhere else. It's gonna premiere for the first time. I'll get to that in a second. Also, we do video game streams almost every single week. Part of the crew will get together, we'll play video games, we'll chat. It's honestly a whole lot of fun. It's kind of described as, honestly, people have said it's like a podcast, but the difference is, it's not as kind of formal or kind of, we're not going through bullet points as we do here.
Mm-hmm.
Because here, You can come in. You can come in every week, listen to the show, and be like, "Oh, I know what's going on in the news," and I get to see these two beautiful men talk about what they think about video games. But then sometimes you want to just have something in the background of people making dick jokes. Not that I would never do that, but that's what you can expect. And it's honestly a whole lot of fun. So if you haven't yet checked out our streams, go and do that. And if you want a taste of it, there's actually, we'll leave a link down in the description below. We have one highlights video so far of Alexa and I playing Far Cry New Dawn. And man, it's a good one. It's a little sample of the kind of chaotic fun that we have over on our live streams. Now, when we're offline in just a few weeks, you might be wondering, what kind of stuff can you expect? Well, like I said, a returning show, Retrograde. Episode 2 will be airing, finally. It's Dragon Age Origins. And let's just say, things go exactly to plan. Nothing goes wrong at all. And we have another show, hosted by my co-host, Nick. I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, so this will kind of segue into our main topic a little bit, but I wanted to work on another little show, sort of in the vein of Respawn Station Weecember, which I did, I guess 2 years ago.
2 years
at this
ago.
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where shorter videos about a specific topic, usually retro gaming, but whereas Weecember was obviously focused around the Nintendo Wii, this new show is going to be revolving around the Nintendo 64. And so, as a result, this new show is going to be called Nick 64. Yes, I know, very clever. Took a very long time to come up with that name. Most of the time of this year, actually, has been spent thinking of that name.
He actually tried 63 other names before he got there.
Yeah, and Nick 64, it's going to be a little bit different to Weecember. Weecember was very much like bite-sized reviews on Wii games. I might do a little bit of that, but the kind of the overall goal that is set forth in this first episode that'll be airing is that I am a game collector, and to this point, my passion for game collecting has always been kind of focused on games specifically that I want to play, which is how you should really do it. It's how you end up sometimes saving money, sometimes not, but it's how you should go about building a collection. It's based on things that you actually are passionate about and want to play. There is one other aspect about game collecting that has always intrigued me, though, and that is owning a complete set for a specific console. And the N64, as I get into in the video, it's big enough to where it's going to be a decent challenge to get a full set of North American N64 games, but it's also not a runaway, like, foregone conclusion like a PlayStation 2 where there's like several thousand games. There's like 296 North American N64 games. So essentially what some of these videos on Nick 64 will be are sort of like game collection pickups videos that are working towards this goal of getting a complete North American set. It's going to not be like a regular upload schedule. It'll be, based on when I have, the money and the time to get stuff together to be able to actually make those specific episodes. But on top of that, I also wanted it just to be Nick 64. I just wanted that to be kind of a show that I could do any sort of topic revolving around the N64 that I wanted to really talk about or showcase. With this podcast, a lot of it is contemporary gaming news and discussions and stuff. Like, obviously, we talk about stuff in our backlogs and everything like that. So we get a little bit of retro stuff in here, but I always just like having like a retro theme that, like, it's completely devoid of the modern talking points, the modern gaming discourse. It's just like, hey, let's look at this weird rocket robot on wheels game that Sucker Punch made on the N64. Like, something like that, I think, would be a lot of fun to just have, a video talking about specific games, maybe some unboxing stuff for different things. I don't want to spoil all the ideas that I have for it, but it'll be a show talking about Nintendo 64 stuff and geeking out about the Nintendo 64, which is a console that I have a lot of nostalgia for. So,
yeah, and that's actually the first lesson of video game collecting 101. Is
Yes.
there's a lot of reasons to collect a video game, and I think actually lesson zero for this discussion is perhaps why. It seems a little bit obvious if mainly if you're watching this and you're just like, oh, I know this, I'm an expert. Um, well, and that's if that's the case, all right, stand up, and say it. Yeah, I didn't think so. I didn't think so. So, uh, so why collect video games? The answer is quite simply ownership. You get the game that you're paying for. It's not like a digital game. And look, there's definitely perks to getting digital games. If you get them on Xbox, then you have the Xbox Play Anywhere, so you can play them across devices. It's also easier to not have to if you have all digital games, you can load them up on your system, and you don't have to go out and swap the discs or whatever to go from one game to another. So there's definitely perks in that regard, but at the end of the day, physical media is physical, and it gives you have something that you can put on the shelf. You can have something that you can hold, and it's something that unless someone were to literally break in and steal it from you, they cannot steal from you just simply by saying, "Hey, the game is, the online server is down or whatever." Mm-hmm. That's also part of an issue regarding servers and stuff. We've talked about that before on the show. You can go back. I'm not going to tell you which episode. You just have to watch all of them and then figure out which one it is. And if you figure it out, just let me know as well, just so I can confirm.
Write a comment.
But yeah, so. With that said, that's why that's based reason. Nick, is there any other kind of reasons that you think for collecting physical media?
For sure. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. Honestly, there's the ownership part of it. There is buying games that you want to play. There's the historical appreciation aspect of it. I think also something that you don't get with digital media is there is a value component to it. Especially for more retro games. You won't really get this with like PlayStation 4, Xbox One, or even like to a lesser extent the 360 and PS3 eras. Relatively speaking, a lot of games on those consoles are pretty affordable and pretty cheap. But once you get into certain other consoles like Nintendo GameCube, Sega Dreamcast, stuff like that, like there is a value component, and right now you might start to see a lot of people flocking to the 360 or the PS3 and getting a lot of those cheap games now while they're cheap, when fast forward 5-10 years, some of those games that you think are, completely out there and, everybody has those, suddenly, a digital store goes down, a game gets delisted, and the price of that game jumps up orders of magnitude more than what it was. It hasn't really happened a whole lot recently that I can remember, but one of the last kind of big ones I remember was Spec Ops: The Line. When that game was being delisted, right. That game went from like a $8 to $10 game to being like $30 or $40, like on the secondhand market. So sometimes there is a value component to it. I think that you shouldn't go into collecting anything with like, I want to make money on it or something. I think that's the wrong mindset to have. But on the same, like on the other hand, I do find that information fascinating, and I like to know what like my collection is worth. I think that that's a funny, just kind of data point, sort of like how we were talking about earlier with the, Nintendo tracking your 3DS playtime and stuff like that. It's like, it's not really a useful data point to have.
It's inconsequential in the long run, but it's a fun little tidbit to know,
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think there's a multitude of reasons why you would want to collect video games. I do find it interesting that it seems that specifically retro game collecting or like physical collecting is like more popular now than it's ever been. There's always talks of new gaming conventions, retro game shows, retro game stores popping up all over the place. Sort of, I would think, in response to maybe GameStop being the big, game store, kind of shifting focus away from that aspect over time. They still have games, obviously, but it's really sort of like the newest stuff, right? You have your PS5, your Series X, your Switch stuff, and like usually like a rack or two of maybe some older games, but by and large it's kind of been supplanted with a lot of collectibles, trading cards, nerd memorabilia, I guess you would say. So I think
merchandise.
Yeah, we've seen like a kind of just a shift and a more rise of the mom and pop kind of game stores popping up that like want to cover everything versus just the.
I mean, dude, I remember when I worked at GameStop, it was sort of a revelatory moment, if I can say so, where I was I was stocking the shelves after the day. It was like once the day's over, you kind of open the boxes and put out stuff for the next day, so that the person opening, it doesn't have to do as much, and the store is kind of ready before you leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember shut down the store, opened a box, and it was a bunch of it was like some geek. GameStop owns something, Think Geek or something like that.
That sounds
right.
But
but so had like, at the time it was mostly video games, but there was like they had one little wall of merchandise that was growing. And as I was going into the box, I was putting stuff out, and I picked up a package that was Harley Quinn panties, and I was putting it up, and I went, oh my God, this is it. And not to be too dramatic, but it was I kind of felt like Oppenheimer in that moment where I was putting it up, and you ever think we're about to start a chain reaction that's going to shut GameStop down? Yeah, I think I did when I put those Harley Quinn panties up on the show floor. But one thing I will say kind of about the kind of value, like collecting video games for the value thing. Obviously, I don't think I won't say it's not quite as volatile, but it's really like stock investments. Like it can go in your favor, it can go out of your favor. So it could be a kind of a secondary factor, a byproduct of the fact that you're collecting video games. That hey, you have this thing that could fluctuate in price. But I would say the pickups shouldn't primarily be for the price if you're just trying to go for like a resale value type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, it's just all over the place. And just similar to what Nick was saying about, hey, you buy Spec Ops: The Line for $5 or $10, and then all of a sudden it's worth 3 times the price. There's also kind of the opposite of that as well, where like you buy a game, you're like, oh, this thing's got to pop off, the value's crazy, and then Nintendo's like, hey, we're re-releasing this game actually, and the price will shoot down. And stuff like that. So
that actually specific scenario happens quite a bit whenever they're doing their remasters. I remember because I work in a retro game store, and specifically, a lot of people will tell you COVID kind of really exploded things once stuff started shutting down. Tons of games started like really ballooning in price. Since then, they've kind of equalized. They're still higher than a lot of them used to be, but they're not quite to the level they were back in like 2020.
Right.
And case in point, one of those examples was Super Mario Sunshine. I remember that on GameCube.
Right.
I had that in my store for like $100 at one point, and then the Mario 3D All-Stars came out. And as soon as that came out, that game tanked to $30. Like it lost almost like all of its value that like it had at one point, just because they put out another limited time collection of these games or whatever. So I actually got kind of burned by that also, because I got Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door on GameCube, and then they announced the remaster for that, and that also similarly dropped in value. So it is funny how certain games will do that, right? And it's usually when there's a new physical release I've seen, because there's times when they put games out on, Nintendo Switch Online. Like, for instance, they put out Luigi's Mansion around Halloween this time, and that's not really had a noticeable impact on its value on the secondhand market. But for whatever reason, some of these other collections and stuff like that, or remasters, once they come out, then, stuff drops. So it's kind of crazy.
Yep. Yeah, so you got to be aware of that, and again, it really is like it's a lifestyle choice, and you have to be on top of that stuff, kind of monitoring it and keeping up with the news and stuff to really understand where the market is going to go and how that's going to shape up. So just a fair warning. Now, with that said, there's a lot of reasons to collect. So let's say you found your reason. And one of the other reasons, by the way, that kind of is the entire reason for, or not the entire reason, but like part of the reason for what like Nick 64 exists is nostalgia. You have something that a console that means a lot to you, and so you decide to kind of commit to either buying a lot of the games. I know a lot of people will, collect video games that specifically they're nostalgic for. Like they remember playing. I have been known to collect video games that when I was a kid, I would remember seeing on the store for shelves or whatever, but I didn't have the money back then to buy them or couldn't ask for them. So now I'm like, oh, now I have adult money and I can buy those games. And sometimes again there'll be games that I love, and sometimes there'll be Crisis Remastered. So we really don't know. It could go either way. So. You go ahead. Did you have something to say?
I was just gonna say it is funny because you and I, we have a love and a passion for games on the whole, and so usually we know what we're getting into when we're going for a specific retro experience, at least to a certain point, right? Like right. I'm sure you didn't think that you were exactly going to have the issues that you have with Crisis Remastered before starting it, but you knew it was an older game, right? And I feel like a lot of people, they do have rose-tinted glasses for some of those eras where it's like, oh yeah, Game Boy Color, I remember playing, Woody Woodpecker Racing on Game Boy Color. Let's go pick that up. And then they get it and they're just like, wow, this is like dog shit. And so it is kind of funny. It's I think it's definitely something that means a bit more to those that are a bit more in the know and like have their expectations in check, I guess I'll say, versus specifically just like honing in on the nostalgia wave and being like, oh yeah, everything is exactly like Pokemon that I remember, like it was the best. And it's like, no, it's just Pokemon was really good on that console, right? So
yep. Now what we should kind of say that lesson 1, collecting for nostalgia reasons. Lesson 2, unless there's more to lesson 1 you think that you want to Professor Nick,
I think we tackled a good bit of different options there, so yeah, I think we can move on.
So lesson 2 then is sort of like the we've gone through multiple reasons. You have your reason. One of them could be nostalgia. The other one is the options, the feel. Those are two different thoughts. The options, but then also the feel of having the options. There's a certain thing, like my wife has, similar to how I collect video games and movies. She has a library. She's gotten 2 bookshelves and they're full of books, and there's inherently a different feel to when you go up to those shelves and say, what do I want next? What's the next thing I'm going to experience? Mm-hmm. And it adds a little bit more, dare I say, purpose or intentionality to the video game experience. It makes it feel like, oh, I'm looking at this, I'm weighing the options. It's a thing that is, and also, video games, when you buy them physically, also come with supplements in certain cases. And I think in recent years sometimes you buy video games and you don't even get the fucking video game with it. So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But like Nick gifted me a copy of Red Dead Redemption 2, and that thing comes with a map, a full freaking map of the game. If you buy Cyberpunk 2077, it comes with like postcards, a freaking sticker pack, maybe also a map.
Hmm.
A lot of games come with maps. Mafia 3 also comes with a map. And it's actually a really it's a little sensitive about the maps. Maybe I
No, you said
you know
Mafia 3,
uh,
and that's what did it.
oh shit. That's what it is. There it is. So yeah, there's it's really cool when video games get physical stuff with it. Um, and I'll also say, I guess lesson 3 and 2 are truncated. Lesson 3 is the cool stuff comes with the video games. I just showed Nick this, but it's obviously no surprise to him because he already has it. But I just bought a copy of No More Heroes 3 because I'm here. Believe it or not, I am listening to what Nick is saying, and I heard him yapping enough about No More Heroes. So I thought it'd be time to check it out for myself. So I bought a No More Heroes. I don't even know what edition it's called, but that thing came packed, and it had a license plate, like a scale license plate, stickers, I think, an art book, which was really cool to just briefly glance at. I don't want to ruin anything for myself, so I haven't delved into it. A soundtrack, a CD, a separate CD with the soundtrack and the game. I mean, it was just this thing was full of things, and I paid $20 for it,
Hmm.
sealed, brand new, $20, which is not bad. It's a good deal.
Yeah, that's one thing that's really nice about physical collecting is that it's a double-sided or double, what's the word I'm looking for, double-edged sword, where a
Damn, dude,
lot
this is a
of
fucking duel. We've both pulled out double-edged swords in this podcast.
yeah, have a big joust here, um
Yeah,
but versus a digital game buying experience in a marketplace, right? We'll leave Xbox Game Pass to the side because this is a bit of a foil to this, but um you are usually, say you're a PlayStation player or a Switch owner, you are beholden when buying digitally for Nintendo or Sony to run a sale on a specific game. And even then, while there are certain circumstances that do change this, at least just from a casual person observing this over the last couple years, it seems like a lot of games, they have a set sale price and it does not change from that sale price. It's like, I'm just going to pull this out of thin air. I don't know what this is, but it would be like Warhammer Dark Tide is like 20% off. And it's like, okay, for the last like 3 years, when Warhammer Dark Tide goes on sale, it's 20% off. Like they usually don't drop it any further beyond that. On the flip side of that, going for physical, you have so many different options, kind of like you were saying, in a different way, but you have so many different options to be like, okay, well, let me see what Target has this at. Let me see what Best Buy has this at. Let me see what Amazon has this at. And see, you can kind of judge all of these different factors. And then you can even throw like eBay in there and be like, okay, this is like actual people, just like, maybe they're going to sell this for $5, like, and that's going to be your cheapest option. So you have a bunch of different options when it comes to actually buying these games. On the, again, flip side of that, though, certain games, like let's say Twisted Metal 3, because I think they added those Twisted Metal games to like PlayStation Plus and everything like that. That's a bit of a pricier game. It's not like super expensive, but it's like, $20 to like $40 on the secondhand market. You can get that game for like $10 on PlayStation because they just put out the new port. So you have different pros and cons to each different type of thing. But the one thing that you did say that I really like is that intentionality of like walking up to the shelf and like choosing a game or choosing a
Lesson
book,
2.
choosing a movie. That I feel is so important to the experience, because when you were saying that, like, I was trying to contextualize it in my head onto other things that aren't like that. And it's like, I don't sit there and be like, what am I gonna watch on YouTube? Like, I don't, like, it's just like, I'm just gonna click on a random video that's, that seems interesting, right? Or like on a streaming service like a Netflix or a HBO Max or something like that. Like, you usually go into that, at least in my experience, knowing that you want to watch something specific, and you go to that. But I don't usually like browse those, and if I am browsing them, it's again, it's not really with like any sort of like goal or desire in mind. It's like the YouTube example. It's like, oh, this seems kind of interesting. Let's try this. That rarely happens for me with video games. It is more so an intentional thing. Like, okay, what have I not played on my shelf here? What's speaking to me right now? Pull it off the shelf. Are the screenshots doing it for me? Is the install size not too crazy? Like, there's a lot of intentionality. So I think that was a very nice way to succinctly put that. And specifically for me also, going off the bookshelf kind of thing, it's taken a very long time for me to amass the collection that I have, right? And it's by no means the biggest. It is, I have a lot of games. I have more games than, I have time to play, right? But it was always a thing when I was younger and I started watching like gaming videos online where I would see certain people that have like the bookshelf of games behind them. And I'm like, man, if I didn't have to sell my games to buy new ones, like I would love to have something like that someday. And you get to a certain point where you just kind of like flick the switch and it's like, okay, I'm not going to sell my stuff anymore. Like, I'm going to try to build this. And then it takes a very long time. Like, I've been collecting for well over a decade now. I mean, there's some stuff in my collection that were my childhood copies, and it's like, while I wasn't technically collecting at the point of playing those, like, it's taking a long time and a lot of money to get to a point where it's like, yes, I have a full bookshelf of stuff to do, but that's literally anything. Like, you could collect like stamps, and it's like after a certain point, and you do it long enough, you're gonna have a lot of stamps, right? So
Yep. And so there's a few threads here, right? So the idea of the intentionality, I think that actually brings it back. We got to go back to lesson 0. The base of this whole topic of collecting video games is that you have to care about it. Like, and it's not, I'm not saying you have to care. Like, I'm not saying you have to care. But in order to do it, the fact is you have to care. If you're not invested emotionally or like intellectually to some degree at the idea of video games, the idea of game preservation or your own nostalgia for it, like, inherently, I need to stop saying inherently. All these things aren't inherently, but just by default, they are. It's linked to the fact that you care about something and you care about it enough to collect it and to spend money on it, to put it on your shelf and put shelving space aside so that you can put those things together. Mm-hmm. So that's the one thing. It's a base, at the very base level. You have to like video games enough. It's not just about, oh yeah, I hop on. Like, look, dead. I'm looking at you, fucking Chad in the back. If you're only playing Madden, all right, you probably don't give a shit about buying fucking knack for the PS4 for the putting it on your shelf. Sure, I'm gonna say that ahead. I'm gonna call that out early on. That's probably not gonna happen. If you're playing only Call of Duty, the newest Call of Duty every time, yeah, probably you're not gonna give a shit about fucking Vanquish from the PlayStation 3.
Right.
But that being said, if you are someone who is invested in the idea of video games, to know about them, to say, hey, this game looks interesting, I'd like to check that out. There is, going back to the current lesson, there is a sense of intentionality that comes in, and I think that is important in video games. And in most cases, it's missing from a lot of people's day-to-day video game playing, or not even day-to-day. The fact of the matter is, guys, most people don't buy a lot of video games. On a year, a person will probably buy one video game. I know that sounds crazy, but look at the stats. It's 1, 2, maybe 3 video games per year. Mm-hmm. And even in the extreme cases, someone will buy one game a month and be like, yeah, that's good. And that is plenty. You don't have to be a collector by going out every single week to pick up random stuff at the flea market that you probably won't play. you're losing out on intentionality there, I think. But people need to be conscious of what they're playing. I'm getting emotional about this. No, it's there is a rather fascinating thing you can do with video games that you can also only do with books. Like the two mediums, movies don't really do this. Whereas you can get lost in it. You can fully immerse yourself, and just get completely swept away. I mean, and to kind of speaking from experience, that's what I was for Days Gone. For for 3 weeks, my wife was away doing some busy stuff that she's working incredibly hard at, but I'm home alone. I'm doing jack shit. So my time was fully immersed in Days Gone to the point where those 3 weeks are really like, oh, that's the time I played Days Gone. Like the story beats really are linked indefinitely to the moments of my life when I was like playing and looking out the window, and I'd see the sunset and be like, oh shit, the sun's going down. Like it's these beautiful moments that you get from intentionally. That's the key word here. Playing through the game and picking out the game that you want to experience in that way. Fucking go for it. Like if you buy Red Dead 2 and it comes with a map, put that shit up on the wall while you're playing it. Like go crazy. Like no one's gonna judge you or kind of like peer in and be like, does this guy have a fucking Red Dead Redemption 2 map on his wall? It's not gonna be a problem. But like throw yourself into video games. It's worth it.
Yeah, I think a big part of it specifically is something that you only get with retro games, because they have largely, outside of exceptions, like you've said, Cyberpunk and Red Dead, a lot of the times they've taken away that supplemental material, right? Nowadays, most of the time when you buy a brand new game, you get a disc and a case. That's pretty much what you get. And
yeah,
specifically with older
a
games,
digital download code if you're lucky.
Mm-hmm. You get manuals with old games, and like I know a lot of people will talk about this online, but it really does transform the thing you're buying in a weird way. It's sort of like, you mentioned getting lost in things like books and games, and specifically a lot of the times these manuals from this era of like PlayStation 2, even N64, stuff like that, but mostly I would say PS2, Xbox, GameCube, that sort of era. While manuals had a functional purpose of like teaching you the controls and everything like that, they're also loaded with like world building, like characters, certain games that maybe
Easter eggs
didn't have the highest budget and like they couldn't do a whole lot of story stuff. They put the story in the manual, so that's just like a huge part of the overall experience.
These are all the cool ideas we had that we couldn't explore directly through the game.
Precisely. Yeah. So like it's, and I think books similarly, when like there's like an illustrated map or like something like that at the beginning, or like some sort of like in-universe kind of thing that they attach to it, even something as simple as like a bookmark, I guess, that would be attached to it. Like it really does kind of elevate the experience of playing a game and everything, even if it is just like a dumb little paper booklet that they slip in the box, right? But
yeah,
when they go the extra mile and it's like, you can thumb through it and it's like, oh my gosh, these screenshots, I haven't played it yet, but that looks sick. And like, oh, what's this weird like crocodile character with a gun? Like, yeah, I want to, see what that's all about. So I think it's
and it's interesting that you bring up the books too, because one of the points I was going to say is that you can kind of look at, it really is interesting how comparable books are to this, but obviously. I'm a big fan of physical media, so I like to get physical books. But sometimes I do agree. Like I have too much shit that I collect, right? So if I was collecting movies, video games, and books, it wouldn't be called a house. It'd be called a storage unit that I live out of. So the I'm fine with digital books or audiobooks or whatever for the time, but one thing I find interesting is that like I'll start an audiobook and the audiobook will at the start will be like, "Oh, and make sure you reach out to the audiobook publisher to get your digital supplements for like so you can get the map or whatever." And it's like, "Oh, that's the stuff that would be at the start of the book, when you open it normally." Now you have to go to some other place, and it's just not the same. Sure, you could print it out, and then you have something that you can look at in a tactile way. But you know what? The physical book just has that shit built in. So that's kind of how that works.
Hmm.
But yeah, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Oh no, I was pretty much done with my point on manuals and stuff. It just all kind of feeds into that experience, I think, is what we're getting at. And it's like it's making that decision that while yes, you are collecting something and like you need to store that thing, it's all in service of the experience. And I think that's why when it comes to retro stuff, as people will see in Nick 64, I do sometimes go to great lengths to preserve the experience of playing these games. And a further extension of that experience is playing on actual hardware, not playing on an emulator, playing with the actual plastic controller that was produced for this game. Sometimes, in case in point, the Nintendo 64, famously weird ass controller. It has 3 handles. You have 2 hands. Where are you supposed to hold it, right? Big thing with, N64. Beyond that, playing on like a CRT television, not, converting all the way up to HD TVs where it kind of messes with like the aspect ratio or how the actual image looks because they were designed for TVs that have scan lines and how it was, how it was projected to a glass screen and everything. So there's a lot of different things that you do as a collector that influence that experience. And I think collecting is just part, basically it's what you do when you want to, what am I trying to say? It's a byproduct, I guess, of wanting to keep that experience as tangible as possible, is that eventually you just end up amassing a bunch of different games or books or anything like that.
Yeah, I think uh, continuing on with the lesson, there's a few things that are, as Nick is saying, sort of a byproduct of video game collecting. That kind of brings us towards the other end of the subject as well about just general video game collecting, which is the more you collect, there's there's this idea that like, okay, what about when you finish the game? You're done with the game, you put it back on your shelf, or you put the game back in the disc, or you put the disc back in the box, and then you put the box back on your shelf. And there's this what happens then? Well, in the case of if you're Nick and you're trying to go for a full collection, you have the you see the collection slowly start building out, but there's also the lost art of lending video games to someone, or like grabbing a video game and saying, "Hey, this you would like this, go check this out."
Mm-hmm.
Which is at a base level, but also if you like the game, you can go play it back. I mean, again, that's part of the ownership part of it, right? Like you own that copy. If you feel you play a game, and if you play a game and you're like, oh, that was cool, but like I don't like it, I don't care about it or whatever, you can sell it, and it is your product, your thing. You own that thing to then sell, not your product. You didn't make it unless you made the game, which be a whole nother thing. Hit us up on Respawn Station so that we can interview you. But you can get rid of it, and then even if you do that, again, there's so many different kind of facets to collecting. I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, video game collecting, you must be just in your man cave, just loading up those games, like just buying whatever." But like you can, by sifting out through your games and saying, "Oh, I'm going through my games that I'm playing, and the ones that I don't care for, I'm pulling out and getting rid of." you're condensing the collection, but you're also making it more meaningful. That's actually what Austin is doing right now. He's going, he has a large collection as well. I think, and we'll get to that in just a second. But he has a large collection as well, and he's essentially doing is, there's only a certain amount of shelf space, and that space is precious. How what you put there is a huge kind of talking point. I mean, I go into his room usually when he's not there or doesn't know I'm there, and I'm looking out at the shelves, and it catches your eye, and you're like, oh, I see what it is, and instantly you understand what kind of player Austin is. You can see the Borderlands stuff in the corner, and he likes Borderlands. You can see the giant waifu pillow, and you'd be like, oh, it's natural. You can neither prove nor deny or disprove that is a fact. I'm just saying. Is that true? Is that not? I don't know. But it adds like you can see what games mean something to him, what games he actually has, and is mindful of wanting to play, and that kind of just furthers your. Like, it doesn't have to be a man cave. It could be a woman cave. It could be they them cave. I don't care. But it's a cave that's inherently yours. Fuck. God damn it! I said inherently again. See, it's really like a double-edged sword, Nick. That's what it is. That's what I'm finding.
I think something that you also mentioned that I'd like to kind of bounce off of also is the part of what I also think is fun about gaming specifically also is sort of how like the technology has changed over time, right? A lot of people will talk about obviously like graphics, things on the software side that have changed over time, but also like the physical like delivery method of the media, right? You have cartridges, little like SD cards, then we have discs and
UMDs.
There's so many different ways that games are over time have been produced, and like it's very cool. I think especially part of why I like, why I chose Nintendo 64 to focus Nick 64 on is that those cartridges, it was the last Nintendo console that did cartridges until Switch when they went back to it. Obviously, very different style of technology and style of cartridge, right? But like the N64 cartridges, like you pop one of those open and it's like, this is a video game. Like, this is nothing else, right?
Yep.
You kind of get this with movies, I suppose, where, you have Laserdisc, Betamax, Blu-rays, DVDs, right? But
VHS.
I feel like games are just like so much more interesting in that way for the actual like technological interfacing that you do. Books, it's like books have been made of paper for like most of the run until like the Kindle came out, I would say, was when that sort of like that notion of what a book kind of changed, I suppose. Audiobooks, I guess, as well could be another thing. I kind of conflate those two at this around the same time though. And yeah, there's just something about specifically the game collecting aspect of it, like the video game aspect of it, that just makes it a lot more fun. And like bouncing off of that as well, the uniformity of video game collecting I think is fun. Books, obviously there's no like standard book size as far as I'm aware. It's not like 2 inches thick, 300 pages. That's your standard book size, right? But most video games on a console will have like, they come in standardized packaging, right? And so it's up to the developers, it's up to the different teams to make that packaging stand out with their game, right? And so I find that really fun too, where it's, you mentioned like you see the collection kind of build as you go for, in my case, going for a complete set. But even more than that, it's everything is different, but it fits a conformity, I guess, is just like kind of what I'm saying. Like it looks nice on the shelf because everything is standardized, but at the same time you point out 3 different games and you're like, it calls up all those different memories that you have of playing it and stuff like that. Specifically, like in your case, I'm sure if you look at Days Gone on the shelf, that means something different to you now than it did a month ago when it was
Yep.
in the exact same spot. So I just think that that's something that's really cool, specifically about the collecting angle of it.
Yeah. And again, that's what I was trying to say about how your collection adheres to your interest, your life, and it really does add to it is an integral part of making your space, your comfort zone, your safe space, whatever you want to call it, somewhere that you feel really completely at home, and I know obviously when you're at home, you feel like that, but there is a difference of having a place where specifically, you know, especially if your video games and everything like is all one place, like you can play your video games in the same place that you're holding them or whatever. um it adds to this kind of again, I'll speak for myself, I'll speak for Austin, um and I'll speak for Austin saying that I am one handsome son of a bitch. But the like it's the this like the place that he has his video games is where he spends most of his time. And it's where he's, most relaxed. He knows what the vibe is. And that's the same way I feel, like I have a setup now where I know when I sit down there, I am there to just relax and enjoy my time. But also kind of the building out of the setup. I was luckily never someone who I didn't buy a lot of video games as a kid. I usually bought them on deep sale, like $5 or $10 if my side gigs were running well. But because I didn't constantly sell them to get new games, I still have my games from when I was a kid. And what ends up happening, I think it's actually rather, dare I say, beautiful, is I can look at my shelf and I can see literally a timeline of my life, starting from the PlayStation 3. You can see the games that I played on the PlayStation 3 when I was growing up, in like middle school, and then you can see the PS4 era come in when I got into high school, and I have the copy of Uncharted that I got from like the PS4 bundle when I first got it. All the games that I played or wanted to play that I'm still going through, like Days Gone, on that system, and then now the PS5 that I'm currently kind of actively building out for. And it's not that I'm going out to just like, oh, I got to have a huge collection for the sake of having a huge collection. And I have other consoles as well. I'm not just PlayStation. I have my Nintendo Switch and my 3DS and Xbox Series or whatever. And they're all there, but like the PlayStation really is part of the reason why I've been so entrenched in that community, is because that's just where I've been. And while I play games on other consoles, I'm not like as attached as I once was. I still can't help but see what it is in front of me when I'm playing video games. That like that's a literally a timeline of my life in video games, in manifesting in literal form in front of me, which is a cool way to kind of experience that, especially if you're going through a lot of video games. But that brings us to one of the final topics, or one of the final aspects of this particular lesson, or final lesson in this class, which is about us, about Nick and I specifically. We've talked a little bit about it, obviously, throughout this lesson, this show. But what are we actually collecting? Like let's give the people a little bit of a peek behind the scenes, and maybe we'll throw up some images of our collection for your viewing, because obviously, like, our collections aren't on screen. Right. As Nick was saying, his dreams has not been quite fulfilled of having a video of him with the setup or the collection behind him. So, Nick, I'll let you start. I know obviously the N64 is something you're currently working on, but what's your collection? Give people a little bit of a feel, a taste.
Yeah. So over the decades that I've been building my collection, it's kind of gone through a bunch of different phases, but the consistent points is it usually is the big three mostly. It was Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. Specifically when I was younger.
Sorry, I'm pretty sure the big three is PlayStation, Nintendo, and Soldier Boy. But
not yet.
Good.
He needs to win the lawsuit first. But yeah, when I was younger, weirdly enough, again, I this is seemingly not a very common thing, but I had an original Xbox when I was younger. A lot of people had like, GameCube, PS2, like specifically that you'll ask, and obviously those were like very popular systems. I think maybe GameCube wasn't at the time. That's kind of like a weird misconception that, people make, but I did not know many people in my age group that had an original Xbox. And like, I even asked my parents one time, I'm like, why did you get me that? Because it was like a Christmas gift. They were like, it probably because you wanted it. And I was like, I wonder where I would have gotten that, because that was before magazines. That was before I was like into it online. It must have been like either a commercial, or my favorite color was green back in the day, so maybe it was just that. But I had an original Xbox.
Is it no longer green?
It changes, but green is still
what the hell
high up there.
That's not a favorite color if it changes.
You can't put me on the spot like that. I could talk about my collection, but not my favorite
well,
color.
Your fucking favorite color is an LED strip? That's what it is? Ooh, it's green now. Ooh, it's blue now.
Rainbow pinwheel. Just pick wherever you want on it. But
yeah.
Original Xbox, that went into 360, and those are like kind of the biggest parts of my collection. Obviously, I have a lot of different stuff from PS1, 2, 3, 4, 5, NES, Super Nintendo. Like I have a bunch of different games from a bunch of different consoles. But original Xbox and 360 are definitely kind of like my big areas. And it's also where I find myself the most interested in getting games for, because there's so much on original Xbox that is really weird. Like I could pull off like 5 different games from my collection, and I guarantee you'd be like, I've never even heard of that, or have seen it mentioned even in conversations of like, maybe Xbox should remaster this, right? So that's why I find them so interesting, is that they are ripe with games that are not being remastered, probably never will be remastered, right? And that's sort of where my collecting focus has kind of shifted to across other consoles, not just Xbox, but stuff that's like, you go to the console to play this game, and there's not really another way to play it. That's why I think a lot of people are coming around to collecting on PS3, because historically the games were like using that cell processor and everything. It was very hard to port and everything. We're starting to see some come out, but like still a lot of stuff that's getting remastered is like third-party stuff that had an Xbox version, and they're probably using that as like the baseline, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with my collecting. I've had most of the stuff that I'm like extremely passionate about, wanting to play and everything. Obviously there's like holy grail items, and there's, games like, you might watch a random video that seems like, hey, this random game that I, just discovered is pretty cool. I want to get that. There's still stuff like that, obviously, but a lot of where my focus is outside of the Nintendo 64 stuff now is, oh, what looks interesting? Never heard of that. Probably not getting a remaster. Oh, that's kind of cool. Let's add that to the collection. But I'm very curious about your collecting habits, Sri, because you and I we do share like pickups with each other every now and then, and I'm always curious to see what you're picking up.
Yeah, I'm a lot more random with it, but I've been a collector for a long time, right? But I've gone through a lot of different phases. Like when I was a kid, I was always into like collecting, in terms of, I knew that I was like, if I bought something I wanted to, I was like, oh, I'm gonna keep this. Like I didn't sell it often. And again, I'm thankful for that, because I still have those, the games that I got my grubby little hands on when I was a kid. And so what I used to do is, I'd do stuff around the house, or for birthday, I'd get video games, or I'd get money for that I'd spend on video games. But usually it was like $5 to $10 was my budget. And I had like a few, again, like side gigs that I'd run in school, selling snacks, whatever, just hustler's life. Can't even can't even complain about it. But I take that, I'd spend that money and I'd buy, like, I remember buying my copy of Fallout 3. Like that, it's literally how I bought Fallout 3. Um, and that's the same exact one that's on my shelf right now. It's that red greatest hits version, like, like the red case for the PlayStation 3. Um, and then as I grew up into like high school, the PS4 era was weird because I didn't, or in the late PS3, early PS4 era, I didn't really get to collect much. And then I ended up getting a job in college. I ended up getting a job in GameStop, and then I was like, "Oh shit! I've you know, I'm growing up. I have money now that's not just like $5 to $10, and I have the system and I can just collect. And then I was just like, oh, this is on sale. This is I can afford this, and I just buy that shit.
Hmm.
And there came a point where I was like, okay, I feel like I'm losing out on the reason for collecting, because the thing is, it's a conversation you have to have with yourself to a certain degree. But like, I realized, oh, that copy that I have of Black Ops 2, right? It has so much meaning to me, so much purpose, because I can remember it like so vividly. I remember my dad coming home telling me, "Oh, can you grab something out of my laptop bag from work? Like, his work bag." So I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I went over to his work bag and I opened the bag, and next to his laptop, tucked in, was a brand new copy of Black Ops 2. And I was like, "Oh my, what the fuck? This is the game." And like that's so precious. But then I look at, I don't know, man. Like, I don't fucking know. Mass Effect. Actually, no. Mass Effect Andromeda is a different one. I'll get to that one. But um, look, I can't even think of them. That's how pointless they are. They're pickups that I was like, oh yeah, sure, that's fucking fine. It's cheap, whatever. It's in a buy two get three or get one sale. I'll just pick it up or whatever.
Right.
And it has no meaning. It has no. It's just a box on a shelf. And sure, I'll eventually get to play it if it looks interesting enough. But it doesn't mean much. So during college, I had a moment where I was like, okay, I need to focus up on what I'm kind of collecting. I'm not saying that every game needs to have a story or whatever, right?
Right.
But inherent, son of a bitch, just cut that one out, Nick. Cut that one out. But there is it's indistinguishable that a game. No, that's not it. That's not the right word for it. It's inconceivable to to displace the story of how the game was bought to the game itself, right? That's the long way of saying, and that's just how human brains work. You pick up something that is you bought from somewhere or someplace, and there's a story behind it. They just, you remember whenever you pick up that thing again.
Yeah.
And there are some incredible stories from my gaming collection. At this point, like, as purposefully, I'll go out to try to go to a game store where I can, even if I'm like away, like out of state or out of country, so that I could get something for my collection that I'm like, oh, this is from this place. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And also, there's certain things like, and so that's how I'll build out my collection. By the way, let me just to say that. So at this point, if I'm buying a game, it's either it's two things. It's one, a game it has to be a game I had some sort of interest in or have. It could be that I go to the store, I look at it and go, oh, this, I didn't really know about this game, or it wasn't on my radar before, but now it is, and so I'll check it out. Or two, it has to have some sort of story around it. Like I already played Evil Within, but when I went to a local gaming convention and they had a Japanese version of Evil Within called Psycho Break, I was like, oh, I'm picking this up. I'm never gonna play. Like, it's not gonna be played. But there is, like now I have this copy. And same thing, we, the lost episode, let's say, of Retrograde, was Condemned Criminal Origins, and I have that game on the Xbox. It's on my shelf so that I could put it into my Xbox and play it. So yeah, there has to be something like that, or I guess third reason is it's some fucking crazy story or whatever. I remember, this is the Mass Effect Andromeda story. I don't know if did I tell you about this, Nick? How I got Mass Effect Andromeda?
Maybe at some point. I don't recall it if you have.
So this was when we were in college, and so my roommate in college, not senior year, that's when I was rooming with these nerds, Lando and Evan, but before that it was like random people that the apartment complex just kind of like, you're in college, so they just put you together. It was like, oh, these are other college students. One of them was what I called a weed wizard. All right. He was able to make the craziest shit out of, like, he was like, oh yeah, like I'd come home and he'd be like, yeah, I'm making weed shrimp. I didn't even know that was possible. So one day he offered me coffee, and I was like, oh, I don't drink coffee, but sure, I'll take some coffee. And I go through and I drink about half of it, and I was like, this shit tastes like ass. What the fuck is this? And he goes, oh yeah, that's some of that good coffee, I was like, what are you saying? It is 7:00 at night, and you've given me caffeine that has weed in it, and so obviously I finished the drink, but then I was like, I drank the cup, and I was like, I don't feel much, and so I was like, oh, I'll go for a run or whatever. I go for a run, and right next to my apartment there was a Walmart, and so I was going through a Walmart, and I remember pushing the cart, and as I pushed the cart, like it was like everything was normal, and then all of a sudden I pushed the cart and I went, oh, I'm feeling it now. Oh shit, it's kicking in. And then through what I've pieced together the next day, it was like a smash cut. I wake up, it's the next morning. I have a copy of Mass Effect Andromeda next to me in bed. Like, it is like I'm on the pillow, and the Mass Effect is right next to the pillow on the bed. Sealed, so there was protection involved. But I then pieced together that at some point in the night, while I was like, oh, I'm feeling it now, I picked up a copy of Mass Effect Andromeda on sale for like $10. And then also, I got home safely, watched I could only like every single Hot Ones video ever made, apparently. Just fucking binged it, and then I fell asleep at some point during that sequence. So now, whenever I look at Mass Effect Andromeda, I know I'll remember the first time that it happened. It was a gentle encounter between the both of us.
I have not heard that story before. That is that is crazy.
Yeah. And it's a special moment. But yeah, so that's kind of the that's my collecting philosophy. It has to have something related to it. It has to have, I either want to play it, or the story is too good where I can't not want to pick it up. And there's definitely still games that I'm, like, oh, I don't know. I don't think I'll ever play that game or whatever in my collection. Like, I have a Switch game called Has Been Heroes. Do you remember this? It's a GameStop exclusive. They published that shit.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Oh, it is bad. It is rough. And I was like, oh, I should just get rid of this. And then I realized, no one wants this game. In fact, there's no resale value for this game. I could, throw it into someone's house, break it in, put it into their collection, and they'd be like, please, fuck, take it back. Okay, take some games with you, but please, I don't want this. That's the state of Has Been Heroes. So I don't actually. Some games like that are just they're in there. They're
right.
They're what I call cannon fodder. So if I buy another game where the case is damaged or something, I'm like, oh, I have a case to swap it out with. That's kind of what it is. Oh shit, we've been going too long. We've been talking too much.
Yep, my light's out now. So I sounds like we are wrapping up the conversation though. I think
Yep.
yeah, collecting is something that I've been very passionate for or with for a very long time, and it's exactly how you described it earlier. You come and go in different phases with it. There's you have the money to spend on stuff, then it kind of focuses in a bit, and eventually a lot of people kind of come to this crossroads where it's, do I want to keep doing this? Do I want to pack all this up and move if I ever have to go somewhere? Or do I just go full digital, full convenience route? And to each their own. I don't think I would ever want to part with my collection. Like, there are definitely things that I've like downsized and things that like, yeah, this thing that I'm more passionate about now, sure, I'll give up something in order to make the blow a little bit more stomachable. I'm definitely gonna have to do some of that once I get to certain N64 games in the set. But overall, it's something that I just have a lot of fun doing, right? And like it's a bit weird when it comes down to like, oh, it's like very like materialistic or whatever, like you're just spending a lot of money on plastic things that go on a shelf, right? But as I'm sure it's been made evident throughout the conversation, it is a lot more than just putting plastic things on a shelf that makes the whole experience so much more fun and enjoyable.
Yeah. And I think that, well, actually, do you have one gaming collecting advice as we ended up? One piece.
I would say you can get a lot of quality experiences for not a lot of money, is how I'll say that. You know, maybe they just remastered The Last of Us Part 1 on PS5 and it's $50. If you have a PS3, chances are Last of Us 1 is like $10 on PS3, and it's the same story, it's roughly the same gameplay. Maybe it doesn't look as nice, maybe it doesn't run as nice, but it was a classic for a reason. So if you are trying to broaden your horizons with video games, take a look at a console that's maybe not the most cutting edge. Don't say you don't have to go all the way back to the NES or anything like that, but take a look at what's out there and take a look just like at maybe some best of top 20 lists or something like that. That was something that I did a lot was, you know, I'm interested in shooters. What's the best 20 shooters on the Xbox 360? And like take a look at that, and it can really open your eyes to a lot of different types of experiences and a lot of stuff that you wouldn't have ever thought to play that you don't have to break the bank in order to play.
Nice. All right. So the final statement is okay. So tip is, I mean, look out for like, don't necessarily. It's going to be an easy tip. I don't know. It's just simple fact. But don't always look at the Amazons. And I'm not saying that as like don't support the corporate, but that's just, I mean, that is also like a side factor, sure. But like go for brick and mortar stores when you can. Go for video game expos and stuff, or even like adjacent expos, like even like nerd expos or geek expos will also have video game stuff thrown in there as well, that you usually end up finding a lot of hidden gems or things that might not have been on your radar, or things that have been on your radar that just are much cheaper, or kind of readily available, and or a better condition, you know, all that stuff. And also, you don't really like buying it on Amazon isn't guaranteeing you shit nowadays, because you're not getting it on time. It's not like, you know, you're going to get it on release day or anything, and it's also not guaranteed the quality will be good. I've had things that I've bought on Amazon that where like the case comes broken or something. I'm like, oh, what the fuck is this? You know, like
Yeah.
what am I paying for? So you know, just don't go, you know, go away from the traditional, like, Target, Walmart, Amazon, whatever the stores are. I don't think I've bought a video game from Target in a while, but anyway, I guess I did buy a whole ass Switch though. That's different. But
Big
yeah,
monkey.
the video games go. Don't, no, you don't got to big monkey me twice. Yeah. So go somewhere that's not just those storefronts, and you'll probably get a better experience out of it, a better deal, or better just kind of better options. And then yeah, to put a bow on this whole topic or today's lesson, I'll just say that yeah, video game collecting can be a daunting thing to get into because it is this okay like when does it start and when does it end? It can kind of feel very amorphous, I suppose, when you're kind of looking at it that way. And as Nick was saying, it's also easy to look at it and say, oh, it's just wasting money on a bunch of plastic stuff. But at the same time, that's where your values lie. We have a whole episode a few weeks ago that was about why we played video games in the first place. I think that's a bigger or more important conversation to have because you can only watch this episode if you already kind of went through the motions of that episode. If you don't enjoy playing video games, you probably won't be collecting video games, right? Like
Right.
It's just a baseline truth. But that being said, I also want to address the big elephant in the room because I do think video game collecting has been hasn't had an uptick recently. I think a lot of delistings and kind of stores going down it has really made people aware of of the value of physical media. And then also you add on top of that the fact that it's the internet and much like how I think the book talk sphere of the internet has kind of been tainted by the fact that it's a bunch of people saying, hey, look at all this look at all these cool books I have behind me. And it's so easy. There's countless fucking live streams that I see of people just going through with their fucking shelves and being like, oh, name a game. Yeah. Oh, what's that niche game that you're talking about? Sorry, I don't have that, but I do have a knack for the PS4. Like, sure. I mean, it's so easy to watch those things and be like, "Oh my God, what am I doing? What is the like? This guy has all like hundreds of games." But let me just say this: the final note is, if you're buying things that mean something to you, that you actually have an interest in playing or experiencing, your collection, be it 5 games, be it 10 games, will be invaluable compared to the one that has 500. So get what you want. It's your money. Spend it wisely and make sure you don't regret it later. You only have one life. All right. And if, just like we said at the end of the video game episode, if video games help, distract you, make you happy in the shitstorm of a world we have, then fuck yeah. And if you can put some plastics on your shelves, and that gives you even a little bit of happiness or enjoyment, then hell yeah to that too. But thanks for watching. As always, we hope you enjoyed our extended conversation about video game collecting 101. If you did, please give both of us ratings down below. Leave a like. Go rate Professor Nick on what's that? RateMyTeacher.com or whatever it is. You have to look up his full name, and I'm sure he'll come up. But yeah, Nick, God damn, this monitor is fucking freaking out now.
The lighting's getting destroyed.
Nick, anything else from you?
Yeah, like you said towards the beginning, we are going to be.
Shit.
God,
what the fuck?
It's going real bad now.
Okay,
trying to send you a message. We will be taking a break, not next week, but in the near future. We will be going off the air for a little bit, as is par for the course at this point. But we are going to be having some cool stuff going up, like Nick 64, like Retrograde for people that missed that the first time around. So definitely keep an eye out for cool future stuff.
Hell yeah. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. And until next time, as always, have a good night, a good morning, and a damn good time.